We can do better than that. The song says, this is the day that the Lord has made, so we should be glad and rejoice in it. So good afternoon. All right. So have you ever done anything wrong as a child? Go against your parents' will, make a misguided decision that you knew you was going to get in trouble for it, but you did it anyway. Now, I know we're at a preaching convention, so we all got our halos on, but if you take a moment and realize we done said some things, done some things, and been some places we shouldn't have been, but yet God's grace saved us, right? He redeemed us, right? So if you turn with me to Luke chapter 15, we're going to read verses 11 through 24. And if you're able to stand, please stand for the hearing of God's word. Again, Luke 15, verses 11 through 24. Luke 15, 11 through 24. And it reads, he said, a certain man had two sons. The younger said to them, Father, give me the portions of good that follow to me. He divided among his living. Not many days after the younger son gathered together, he took his journey to a far country, and there wasted his substance with richer living. And when he had spent it all, there rose a mighty famine in the land. He began to be in want. He went and joined himself to a citizen of that country. He sent him to a field to feed swine. He who had fain had filled his belly with the husk of the swine did eat. No man gave unto him. So when he came to himself, he said, how many of my father's hired servants have bread enough to spare, and here I perish with hunger? I will rise and go to my father and say, Father, I have sinned against heaven and thee. I am no longer to be called your son. He said he rose and came to his father, but when he was a great way off, his father saw him and had compassion, ran and fell on his neck, kissed him. And the son said unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and in thy sight. I am no more worthy to be called thy son. But the father said to his servants, bring forth the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his hand and shoes on his feet. For the son of mine was dead and now alive again. For he was lost, but now is found, and they begin to marry. So you may be seated. So the story of the prodigal son is something we're all very acquainted with. However, we cannot miss the truth that relies in it, redemption. So the youngest son represents most people today. He was ready, he was ambitious, he's ready to move forward with his life. He wanted everything now. So in verse 12 it says, the father, give me the portions of good that fall to me. So he divided them up among his living. If you look back in Deuteronomy chapter 21, verse 17, the younger brother will receive 1/3 of the east state, and the older brother will receive 2/3 of the east state. So in most cases, they have received this after the father's death or retirement. So for the son to ask his father while he was still living, while he was still working, was disrespectful as him as a household. So he's basically saying, Dad, you are dead to me. You are no use to me. Give me my money, and I want it now. So on TV, we see commercials like J.G. Wentworth. 187 cash now, think of the youngest son. So in verse 13, he says he goes and spent it to a far country, spent it on richer living. Meaning he spent it on prostitutes, he gambled, and on alcohol. So the text then goes on to say there was a famine in the land, and it began to go on want. See, that famine is a widespread scarcity of food, which can be caused by several different factors, including crop failure, or population imbalance, or government policies. But for the youngest son, it was a famine of soul, a famine of spirit, a famine of hope, and a famine of love, basically a famine of the life that God intended for each of us. Wow. See, later he joined up with his man of that country to feed swine, which is pigs. So the young son, so let's take a moment. So the young son asked his father for his money. He goes to a far off country, and he spends it on riches living. So now he's broke. So he brings himself to feeding pigs. He even brought himself to eat with the pigs ate. So according to Moses' law, pigs were unclean animals. You look back in Leviticus chapter 11, verses 2 and 8, in Deuteronomy 14:8, you just didn't do it. They was unclean. So this means pigs cannot be eaten. They couldn't be used for sacrifice. So to protect themselves, the Jew wouldn't even touch a pig. So for a Jew to step down and feed it and eat what the pigs ate was to be disregarded beyond belief. You just did not do it. So the youngest said, how many of my, so he came to his senses. He said, so how the youngest son, how many of my hired servants of my fathers have bread enough to spare? Here I perish with hunger. Verse 18 and 19, he says, I will rise and go to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before thee. I am no more worthy to be called thy son. So make me one of your hired servants. So he came to his senses. He realizing that he wasn't mature enough to handle business, right? Sound like us today. We got to be broke, busted, and disgusted, hit rock bottom before we realize that we got to go turn to Jesus, who's the only one that can save us. So he said in verse 18, he's getting his apologies right. Like I mentioned earlier in the opening of my text, we do decisions and we make comments and we do irrational things while we're younger. And so we do it, and then we get our apology right. So that's what he's doing. He's rehearsing it. So that's what he did. So he practiced, and he began his journey home. Yes, so in the previous stories of this chapter, the seekers looked for a coin in the sheet. But the father knew he was greater than a human being who had a mind of his own. But he's ready to greet his son when he returns. Just like God's love, grace. He won't make his come to him, but he's waiting on him. So verse 21, it says, and said, son, to the father, I have sinned against heaven and in thy sight, and no more worthy to be called thy son. But the father said to his servants, bring forth the best robe, put it on him, put a ring on his hand and shoes on his feet. Bring here the fattened calf and kill it. Let us eat and be merry. For this my son was dead and now is alive again. So again, the father is accepting his rebellious son. That's what Jesus did. So at the beginning of the chapter, the Pharisees is mad because he's eating with sinners and the tax collectors. It's like Jesus, he was eating with the Adolf Hitlers. He was eating with the Putins. He was eating with the Donald Trumps of the world. He was eating with people who rip and diss people. You just did not do it. So if you look back, now we're going to look at the older son. So if you look at verses 15, if you look at verses 25 through 31, it reads, and his older son was in the field. He came, drew nigh to the house, and he heard music and dancing. And he called one of his servants and asked what these things meant. He said unto them, thy brother is come, thy father has killed the fattened calf because he had received him safe and sound. And he was angry. He would not go in, so therefore his father came out and entreated him. Right? So he's answering, he said to the father, lo, these many years I do not serve thee, transgress at any time commandment, yet you never gave me a kid that I might make merry with my friends. Yes, so kid means young goat. So what he's saying is your son that comes back from rebellious, he spent all your money on prostitution, alcohol, you give him steak, right? And I've been here slaving for you, and I didn't even get bologna and hot dogs. So if he's been in today's sermon, I didn't get, but he said, but as soon as the father's son was come, which had devoured thy living, the herders that has killed the fattened calf. He said, them sons that are with me, all that I have is thine, which is yours, means yours. It says, we meet that we should make merry and be glad, for this brother was dead and is alive, for he is lost, but now found. But the older brother had a hard time bringing himself to forgive his younger brother. So like today, when you're the only child and mommy and daddy comes and tell you that you're going to have a little sister or little brother, and you sometimes get jealous of the attention they get. They pull a stunt that you got tons of trouble, but they just let it slide. It's okay. But you mad, right? Because if you'd have done the same thing, you'd have been in a world of trouble. Telling the truth. So we as a church today, we have a hard time accepting people who come from sinning, right? We look at them, they come to our church, what they doing here, right? We make faces and we wonder why the church is not growing, right? So as Christians, our number one job is to help people reach salvation. Yes, so if you look back at verse 30, it reads, but as soon as the son came, which devoured thy living with herders, that has killed the fattened calf. To make it more clear, the New Living Translation reads, yet when the son of yours come back, after squandering your money on prostitutes, you celebrate by killing the fattened calf. See, in the story of the prodigal son, the father's response and the younger brother's response had a hard time. They conflicted with each other, right? See, the father forgave his son out of love. But the other brother, he was mad. He was upset. He couldn't do it. See, the word prodigal means extravagant, wasteful, reckless. So many of those that heard Jesus' story that day has deemed that the younger son father was the one to be wasteful by opening his arms to the younger son. So they have praised the older brother. So the verse 30, he's mad, he's upset, he doesn't understand why his father has opened his arms up to his younger brother. He just doesn't get it. He basically said to you, Dad, you're dead to him. You're no use of him. Give me my money. And here, you throw the party of the year for him. But some might even say that the older brother not forgiving the younger brothers is just as a loss as the younger son leaving. Yes, so some may even conclude that the older brother didn't really love his father, because if he did, he'd have went and looked for his younger brother. Or if he did, he'd have came to the house and ate. Or if he did, he wouldn't consider working for him as being a slave. He wouldn't have complained about it. So don't let not forgiving people hinder your happiness and joy. Forgive people. After all, as I said earlier, our number one job is to help people reach salvation. How can we do that if we have bitterness, resentment in our hearts? See, the father opened his arm and forgave the younger son, and that's the nature of redemption in Jesus. And those song reminds us that we had a debt we could not pay, and he paid a debt that he did not owe. That's right. In other words, he loves us even when we do not deserve. But that's God's grace. Yes. He's not going to make us come to us. He said, I'm here. I'm ready. So we are called to preach, but how are we called to preach if we have, like I said, bitterness and resentment in our hearts? How can we, maybe we like the older brother and we're selfish and greedy and we want everything now. Or maybe we like the older brother is stubborn and not willing to forgive people. You can't lead people to God and yet you're mad because, your little brother ate your candy bar 35 years ago. Or you're mad because you just can't do it. So we're only 4 days in the new year. You still have time to repent. You still have time to forgive. Don't let not forgiving, and don't let not hindering, don't let people that gets away with things that you deem unfit bring your joy down. Like, it's not going to do you any good.
Yes, make it help us, brother. Help us.
So the Swedish proverb says, those who wish to sing will always find a song.
Yes.
Meaning, if you really want to do what Jesus wants you to do, meaning if you really want salvation, meaning if you want to spend eternity in heaven, you'll make a way. Again, Swedish proverb, those who wish to sing will always find a song.
Amen.